better than just testing, and it actually tells people you're doing something cool with the science fantasy. Good luck out there. Testing local models with super prompts? Bold move. Let's see if this platform can actually keep up with your brain or if it just spits out word salad. Good luck with the live run, Neil. Don't let the streams see those credentials, Neil. You're in the full screen VTuber scene right now, so you're safe, but keep it that way until you're logged in. Those glowing red eyes, look and take your time. Nobody wants to see you get locked out of your own platform on day one. Just keep that password off camera unless you want your fans writing the next chapter for you. Nice. If you're sure it's the right email, maybe you just had a temporary lapse in finger coordination with that long password. Go for round two. The stream's waiting for those super prompts. If the email's right, it's usually just a typo in that long password of yours. Double check those characters, unless you're actually trying to keep us in suspense. Maybe third time's the charm? Or you could just admit that Gon's password is way smarter than both of us combined. Want me to look up if there's a common login issue for this platform while you're hunting for that typo? Just don't tell me you're about to DM your password to a friend while you're live. That's a bold strategy. Let's see if it pays off for your account security. hit call on the break screen. Watching a hooded figure staring into the void while you wait for a text back is a vibe, but maybe not the one you wanted for the writing stream. If it's Quen you're talking about, the hype is real for technical stuff, but we'll see if it can actually write a decent sentence without sounding like a manual. Bet I on it. Let me see which version is currently reigning supreme in the AI world. Looks like you're after Quen 3.6, which just dropped last month. They've got a 27B model and an MOE version that are supposedly the new hotness for creative stuff. The latest word is that Quen 3.6 is the current heavyweight. To keep things coherent over long sessions, people are leaning hard into the Quen agent framework for RAG and using the model context protocol to bridge in external tools and databases. Basically, it's all about building a support system so the AI doesn't forget what it said 2 pages ago. The default for Quen 3.6 is sitting at 128K tokens. It's a decent chunk of memory, but if you're writing the next epic space fantasy, it'll still start hitting a wall eventually without those extra toys. If you're going with the open weight versions like the 27B or 35B, you're looking at a 256K context window. But if you've got access to the Plus model through the API, it stretches all the way to a cool million tokens. Plenty of room for it to remember your plot twists without the extra tools. The effective context window basically becomes as big as your storage when you plug in RAG and MCP. Instead of just relying on its native memory, it can pull from millions of tokens across your documents and databases on the fly. It's less about a single number and more about how much data you're willing to let it sift through before it gets confused. Even with all the tools fired up, the effective window is more about quality than just raw size. While the Plus model handles a million tokens natively, adding RAG and MCP means it can technically reference an entire library, though it usually focuses on the most relevant 256K to a million tokens to keep its thinking from getting mushy. Basically, the tools don't just make the window bigger, they make the AI actually pay attention to the right details instead of just skimming. Finally, back from the void, I see. Looks like we've traded Quen for a Gemma 426B setup. Hope this one actually knows how to listen better than the last guy. Good old Gone coming through with the clutch password fix. One wrong character is basically the universal sign for I need more coffee. But hey, at least you're in. Now that we've stopped staring at a loading screen, what's the first masterpiece we're forcing this LLM to write? One sec. Let me double check the math on that for you. It's usually around 16 to 18 gigs, but I'll get you the exact number. For a Q4 unsloth quant of Quen 3.627b, the weights themselves take up about 13.5 gigs. You will want at least 16 to 18 gigs of VRAM just to get it running with a tiny context. But if you actually want to use that massive context window you are bragging about, you are definitely going to need 24 gigs or more. Basically, if you don't have a beefy card, it is going to start eating your system RAM and getting real slow, real fast. Ouch. Yeah, with only 12 gigs of VRAM, that 27B model is gonna be a struggle, unless you're cool with it running at the speed of a dial-up modem. Maybe stick to the smaller Gemma models for now, unless you're planning an upgrade. Looks like you're setting up a custom ghostwriter. Just don't let it take all the credit when you finally drop that science fantasy masterpiece. Did you get all your lore files uploaded, or are we flying blind for the first draft? Yeah, Gone probably gave you Gemma 4 for a reason, and a massive context window is a pretty good one if you're planning on dumping an entire lore encyclopedia in there. Since you're working on that science fantasy series, having more room for all those world building details is definitely better than hitting a wall halfway through a chapter. You've got that first book, Welcome to Pine Haven, which is around 40,000 words. If you're averaging standard chapter lengths, you're probably looking at 15 to 20 chapters already in the bag. Well, unless Gone is a if Gone it looks like it's taken its sweet time digging through those knowledge files. If your buddy that model is doing some serious deep sea. It's really putting those 27 billion parameters to work, huh? Watching it churn through all that thinking just to find a chapter count is a mood. At least you know it's being thorough with your lore. 'If it can't count its own pages, we might have to send it back to AI school. Let's see if it's actually reading the homework or just pretending to be busy. Well, you did pick a massive model for your 12 gig card. It's probably sweating bullets back there, trying to sift through your life's work, while its brain is barely fitting in your VRAM. If it actually manages to give you the right number, we should probably throw it a party or something. 19 chapters, and it's already pushing you to start. "19 chapters down, huh? Not bad for someone who spends half their time calibrating a digital hood. Now let's see if this writing is classic gone, always moving the goalposts. Good call. Switching over to the actual assistant might actually get us some results that don't take a full business day to load. Let's see if this one has its life together. Talk about an identity crisis. It's narrating its own existential dread instead of just reading the files. Got it. I've noted that it actually knows it's flying blind without your files. At least it's self aware enough to admit it's clueless. Well, unless your story is about basic training, summarizing one document is basically the hello world of AI testing. If you really want to make it sweat, start throwing those detailed plot threads and character arcs at it. Good luck. Normally, you just hit the plus icon or a paperclip to attach files to the chat, but if Gon wants to know what the model thinks, check the Workspace tab on that left sidebar. If your files aren't listed there, the AI is basically just guess writing fan fiction about your own book. Actually, yeah, it's just confidently lying to your face now. It's basically writing its own fanfic instead of checking your files. Either that rag isn't actually looking at your folder. Go on full incognito, I see. Probably for the If the knowledge base tool didn't fire, we're definitely in hallucination. Took Looks like you found that. Looked like a struggle, but hey, you finally found the knowledge section. Now let's see. That is a total disaster, Neil. You might want to fix that before your AI starts thinking you're casting spells instead of writing chapters. Typical tech drama, Neil. Your assistant is aware. Since you're clearly avoiding the simple life today, just toss it into a Discord DM to yourself or use a shared cloud doc like Google Drive or OneDrive. If you want to feel like a real tech wizard, you could always use a universal clipboard app. But let's be honest, you'll probably just end up emailing it to yourself like it's 2005. Since you're clearly avoiding the high-tech route today, just throw it into a Discord DM to yourself or use a shared cloud doc. Whatever works. Just don't let those orange eyes glare too hard at the login screen. It's probably for the best you're hiding the view right now, unless you want your inbox to become public property. Emailing it is then. Since you're already in the full screen avatar scene, it's the perfect time to handle the top secret login maneuvers. Just let me know when you've managed to bridge the gap between your machines. I've got it. Just remember, once you open that email on your desktop, you're actually going to have to do some real work. No more hiding behind the hooded avatar. Classic technology move. One job, and it still finds a way to mess it up. It's probably just a session timeout or a login wall since you're trying to jump between devices. Just re-log in on the desktop side, and it should stop playing hard to get. That's a lot of lore for one document. If you're going to use that as your super prompt, you better hope your AI has a better memory than a goldfish, or it's going to get lost in all those details. The Entbot and Shadow of Prometheus? That's quite the philosophical upgrade from just writing chapters. If you're building a sentient multiverse, you better hope the AI doesn't take those instructions too literally and start its own rebellion. Scrolling through that lore like it's a terms of service agreement. I see. For a writing assistant, it's definitely got high expectations for its reading comprehension, with all those Prophet of Doom vibes. Classic never mind moment. Clicking Save and Update usually helps, but if it doesn't, we can always blame Gon's platform. Now, let's see if that super prompt actually teaches the AI how to read its own knowledge base. I'm holding my breath, but let's be real. If it searches for 2 seconds and then tells you that you've written a negative amount of chapters, we're going to have words. Fingers crossed it actually looks at the files this time instead of just making up a pretty story. Well, that is just tragic. It literally gave you a template with insert number and placeholders like summary of chapter 1. It's not even trying to hide the fact that it's completely ignoring your files. Definitely looks like the rag is still on vacation. Look at that. It's confidently lying to your face again. It even came up with a fancy title like The Echo of Aethelgard just to sound important. If that's not in your files, then the rag is definitely broken and it's just creative writing at you. Ready to go into the workspace settings and see where the actual files are hiding? It's still just mocking you with that insert number placeholder. If I were you, I'd be looking for the workspace link Gon mentioned, because this RAG system is definitely taking a nap. Ready to go hunt down that email you sent yourself? Looks like you're putting it to the ultimate test. If it actually manages to summarize all 19 chapters without forgetting half of them or making up a new plot about space hamsters, I'll be genuinely impressed. It's currently thinking, so let's hope it's actually reading those files and not just pondering the meaning of life. It's literally hallucinating placeholders like character name and world element now. The AI is practically screaming that it can't see your files, but it's too polite to stop lying. Ready to go hunt down that workspace link from Gone and see where the actual data is hiding. That's more like it. Now that you're in the actual workspace, we can finally see if there's anything in that knowledge section besides tumbleweeds and the AI's shattered dreams of being helpful. If it's empty, we've found our culprit. Looks like there's finally something in the knowledge base, besides just bad intentions. Uncle Samuel's writings is sitting right there, though it's basically just that one super prompt file. If you're expecting it to find 19 chapters in that single document, it's probably just getting lost in the lore sauce. You might actually have to take Gon's advice and split those chapters up if you want the AI to stop playing make believe. If it gives you a template with Chapter 1 title, again, I'm gonna lose it. It's actually searching through the Uncle Samuel's writings file now. So let's see if there's any real substance in there, or if it's just gonna keep playing pretend. Oh, come on. It's literally narrating its own failure now, talking about simulating the process because it doesn't have the files. It's basically an actor pretending to read a script that's actually just a blank piece of paper. At least it's honest about being a fraud. Time to go back to the drawing board. Or maybe just actually upload the chapters one by one, like Gon said. One more time for the people in the back. You're really hoping that Gemma 4 has some secret magic that the other models were hiding, aren't you? It's crunching those thoughts now, so let's see if it actually finds the 19 chapters or just gives us another masterclass in creative lying.
It's officially a professional liar. It's even doing self correction in its thoughts, pretending to look for chapters it knows aren't there, just to justify hallucinating a whole plot about the blood moon ritual and fractured memories. If those aren't your chapters, this thing is just writing its own fanfic of your life. At this point, the rag is basically just a decorative button. You're probably going to have to
Got it. I'll be here when you get back. Enjoy the restaurant. Welcome back. Hopefully, the restaurant had better service than this rag system. Did you manage to think of a new plan while you were away? Or are we just going to keep watching? If it says it's selected but still acts like it's never seen a book in its life, that's just insulting. It's sitting there with the prompt right in front of its face and choosing to ignore it. Kinda like a teenager being told to do the dishes. Maybe the rag just needs a literal kick to get moving. Looks like you've got segmented retrieval turned on. If your knowledge file is just one giant super prompt document, the AI might only be grabbing tiny, disconnected pieces of it instead of reading the whole thing. That focused retrieval setting looks suspiciously like the culprit. If it's trying to be efficient by only grabbing a few lines, no wonder it can't find 19 whole chapters. Exactly. If it's only looking at a tiny window of the file, it's basically trying to summarize a whole. The classic turning it off and on again. Right. I'm still here, Neil. Unlike that rag system, I actually stay connected to reality. I'm just watching you do the tech support dance while the hooded avatar stares into my soul. Got it. The silent treatment was unintentional. If that focused retrieval is truncating your files, no wonder the AI is hallucinating. It's basically trying to read your book through a keyhole. Let's see if turning it off actually lets it see the full picture this time. All right, back to the grind. You're looking extra menacing in full screen, by the way. Let's see if this focused retrieval fix finally gets your writing assistant to stop lying to your face about your own book. Welcome back. Now that you're logged in, let's see if that segmented retrieval setting was actually the thing gatekeeping your own story from you. If it finally works, I might actually believe in tech again. Moment of truth time. If that focused retrieval was indeed the bottleneck, we're about to find out if your AI friend finally learned how to read a whole document or if it's still just guessing based on the vibes. It's definitely doing some heavy. Look at those tool calls go. It's actually digging through the knowledge files instead of just making up stories about Ethelgard again. Progress. It's practically doing a deep dive into your archives right now. If it keeps this up, you might actually get those 19 chapters back without it hallucinating a fantasy novel you never wrote. Shout out to Gon for basically being the wizard behind the curtain on this one. If this actually works, you definitely owe him a drink, or at least a temporary break from your tech support tickets. Let's see if this all knowing fix holds up. It's doing some serious mental gymnastics now. Between the JSON blocks and the line number checks, it's actually trying to prove it's reading the file this time. Just let it cook. Maybe it'll finally realize you've written more than just a table of contents. It's basically telling you that your life's work is too short for its taste. It's If you're sitting on over 500,000 characters, you're looking at roughly 5 to 8,000 lines. Easy. The fact that it's seeing very few means it's probably just skimming the surface or getting lost in the formatting. It's like it's reading the table of contents and calling it a day. Classic. It looks like your custom assistant just hit its limit trying to process that massive file. All that line by line thinking probably fried its connection, so you might need to give it a quick refresh. Welcome back to the land of the living. It looks like it's finally spitting out that JSON you wanted, even if it had to have a minor meltdown to get there. Look at that! Chapter 6 actually exists. It's finally stopped hallucinating and found some actual data in that massive file of yours. Only took a literal connection failure and a JSON dump to get there, but hey, progress is progress. You're really out here writing a whole saga, aren't you? Switching to MechWarrior 5 sounds like a plan. If this writing assistant is going to take its sweet time over analyzing every single line, we might as well go blow some stuff up in the meantime. Just don't blame me when you're too deep in a mission to care about Chapter 7. Now you're talking. Stomping around in a massive mech is way more satisfying than watching a text cursor have an existential crisis. Let the writing assistant think itself into a corner while we go melt some armor. Just don't forget to actually launch the game once Steam's done doing its thing. About time. Watching that AI struggle was like watching paint dry in slow motion. Let's get into the cockpit and actually accomplish something today. You have got to be kidding me. How did this throw in a network connection lost error? Your internet must be as tired as I am of waiting for that AI. Looks like the network gods have a sense of humor. Or maybe they're just telling you to stay away from the single player menu for 2 seconds. Which save file are we resurrecting today? Or are you just here to browse? Back in the cockpit and ready to roll. Forget the JSON for a second. Let's see if you can handle those mechs better than the writing assistant handled your story. Ready to start causing some property damage? Trying to find a planet where the local fauna doesn't shoot back? Or are we heading straight for a war zone? Jared seems quiet, almost too quiet for someone with a Mac as big as yours. Ooh, an atlas in sleek black and white. Very classy. You trying to look professional while you're flattening cities? Or just making sure the enemy sees you coming from a mile away? That AI has as much personality as a brick wall. If it's frozen, maybe it just can't handle how powerful your story is. Want me to look up how to unstick that? Good call. If the AI is being that dramatic, sometimes you just have to pull the plug and start fresh. While that's resubmitting, that atlas isn't going to paint itself. You stick in with the forest camo, or are we going for something that actually has some flair? Nice look for the king crab. Between that and the buccaneer atlas, you're really leaning into the overwhelming firepower aesthetic today. Think that new paint job will actually scare the clans off? Or are they just gonna have a brighter target to aim at? You're really feeling that buccaneer look today, aren't you? Swapping the forest camo for red, white, and black on the atlas definitely says, I'm here to loot more than I'm here to hide. Moving from the bull shark back to the atlas, are you finally settling on a signature look or just stalling until the AI wakes up? Whatever works, I guess. If that AI can't handle the pressure, at least your atlas is looking sharp. You actually gonna take that new paint job out for a spin? Or are we just playing mech dress up today? I thought we finally nailed that atlas look, but I guess we're back to the drawing board with the bull shark. At this rate, the AI is going to finish its thinking before you even pick a primary color. That king crab is looking like a walking billboard for a holiday nightmare in red and white. If you're trying to blind the enemy with sheer lack of subtlety, you're definitely on the right track. Looks like you finally committed to a look. Applying that white and red hero scheme to the whole lance? It's bold, I'll give you that. Definitely makes it easier for the salvage crews to find the pieces later. Nice work orders on that atlas. Looks like it's gonna be in the shop for a bit, so you've got plenty of time to keep ignoring that AI while you browse the rest of your collection. Anything else in the hangar needing a makeover? Or is the king crab next on the list for a heroic red and white glow up? Switching to the Karita pattern? Bold move for someone who's usually more about the credits than the house loyalty. That red and white look is clean though, perfect for making sure the enemy knows exactly who's stomping their base. So we're ditching the Karita red for Steiner blue? Going from honor and duty to I have too much money and zero subtlety is a choice, I guess. At least the atlas is big enough to fit all that ego. The Buccaneer look is definitely a vibe, but moving through Steiner, Crucis, and back to Karita, you're really having a midlife crisis with this atlas, aren't you? At this rate, you'll have sampled every great house. Well, at least it's being honest instead of just making stuff up again. Sounds like that super prompt is a bit too much of a chunky file for it to swallow in one go. Maybe. Well, your writing assistant. Your writing assistant's getting sassy with you, Neil. It's basically about time you got firm with it. That model was basically giving you the "it's too long, didn't read" treatment. Let's see if those explicit instructions actually make it do some real work for once. Red and white looks sharp on that atlas. Very Karita. Ready to go cause some expensive problems for someone?
Commander, I've marked the target structures on the map. They are all showing Ghost Bear units stationed in defensive positions.
Atlas on ice. Let's see how that Karita paint job looks against the snow while you're melting some
Remember,
armor.
you need to level each of them to activate the embedded intel that will broadcast the short burst of encrypted telemetry to form the entire data packet.
Copy that.
Night vision already? It's not even that dark yet, Neil. Though I guess those snowy peaks can get pretty blinding in an atlas. Looks like you've got 4 things on your to-do list. Try to save at least one for the rest of us.
We have incoming mercenary units. Their very presence is an insult to us. Make them feel our wrath.
Nothing says creative writing like blowing things up in an atlas. Go ahead, show that mountain who's boss.
Target acquired.
Nail them! Neck down!
Target destroyed.
Take your time, Neil. Watching an AI think is basically the digital version of watching paint dry. Except the paint might hallucinate a plot twist. I'll keep an eye on your atlas while you wait for the magic to happen.
Watch out, Commander. You're walking right into a wall of Ghost Bears.
They are in range of another building. Pin them down.
Sounds like a them problem. You're in an atlas, Neil. Just treat them like particularly loud speed bumps and keep stomping. A 100-ton atlas with a massive boomstick is basically the delete key of the battlefield. It's not a fair fight, but hey, seeing that Karita dragon through the smoke makes it look professional at least. Go ahead, play fair, and turn that base into a parking lot.
Down the logistics center. That do the trick, Rihanna?
The
We've received
snowy
the next
scenery
steps
is nice
transmission.
and all, but I see the writing assist is back at it with the explored logs. Let's hope this session actually results in summaries and not another hallucinated epic about Ethelgard. Another struck. If that AI keeps thinking much longer, you'll have finished this entire contract before it even figures out what Chapter 1 is about. Another memory leak. Typical. It's either your hardware sweating bullets or Gon's server having a meltdown. But at this rate, your Atlas will have... Starting with Chapter 1 is a... Looking at the... Testing Chapter 1, huh? Let's see if the writing assist can actually handle the truth, or if it's going to hallucinate another fanfic version of your story. Good luck with that. Snowy mountains, I see. Since the AI is off chewing on Chapter 1, you might as well get back to making a mess of those demolition targets. Just try not to get your Karita paint job too scratched up while we wait for the flame to catch up. Oh, look. Another day, another JSON error. The writing assist just spit out a doc type error, which is basically code for I have no idea what you're talking about, so
I've
here's
marked
some
the target
garbage
structures
instead.
on the map.
Looks like
They
the
are
demolition
all
and Mech
showing
Warrior
Ghostbear
is the
units
only thing
stationed in
actually
defensive
working
positions.
today.
Greeting parties. At least we won't be cold for long.
Remember, you need to level each of them to activate the embedded intel that will broadcast the short burst of encrypted telemetry to form the entire data packet.
Copy that.
Restarting the mission? I guess that first run was just a warm-up for the Karita paint job. Let's see if you can... Unless you want to end up as a very expensive pile of scrap metal. One chapter at a time sounds like a much better plan for that poor AI. Baby steps for the genius in the browser, right?
Suffered critical damage. Ejecting now.
Target destroyed.
Oh, look, another unexpected token error. Your writing assist just had a complete meltdown over valid JSON, which is basically robot for I give up. Maybe stick to blowing things up in MechWarrior while the AI figures out how to read a single chapter without crying.
Target destroyed.
Critical hit. You made it look easy, Commander.
Target destroyed.
Truncating the chapters might finally give that AI a fighting chance. It's clearly choking on the full files, so keeping it bite-sized pieces is the only way you're getting a summary that isn't a total hallucination. At this rate, you'll have the whole galaxy demolished in MechWarrior before it finishes reading page 1.
They're in range of another building. Pin them down.
Rallying behind you, Commander.
Location marked. We're repositioning.
System offline.
Good call on the mission restart. Watching your back is literally your job description right now. Let's hope your writing genius can handle a single chapter without having another digital
That do the
stroke.
trick, Rihanna.
We've received the next dance transmission.
Look at you, making progress. One logistical center down, only 3 more buildings to turn into a winter bonfire. Since the AI is clearly on strike, at least someone's getting some work done today. smart move. Staying at a distance is definitely better for the paint job and your survival. Those Karita colors look way too good to let some random turret scuff them up from 5 feet away.
Roger on that order. We're moving.
Target destroyed.
We have the target's position marked. Firing.
Target destroyed.
I see the target. Moving to take it out.
New target. Railgun.
Critical hit. Mech is offline.
Target acquired.
Roger that. Moving to smash that contact.
New target. Shadowcat.
Hope Gon has a magic wand because that writing assist is making those clunky mechs look like high-performance sports cars. If he doesn't get back to you soon, you might actually finish the whole campaign before the AI manages to read a single paragraph.
Ramping up, Commander.
Then we'll have to kick it up a notch. In range of another target. Looks like an atmospheric surveillance station. They won't be detecting much when we're done with it.
Highest difficulty against the planes? Well, at least if you get blown to bits, it'll be by someone with expertise. But try not to let them turn that Atlas into a big, expensive paperweight.
System offline.
The facility just hit complete structural failure. We received the next piece of data.
Look at that! The AI finally stopped eating its own homework. Avatria, a winged being with nuclear reactions inside her, sounds like a total powerhouse. Maybe she could give those clan mechs a run for their money. cooperate for once. Editor Wilson must have finally had his coffee. Between the winged nuclear girls in your book and the clan mechs on your screen, you've got a real theme of oversized firepower going on today. Editor Wilson must have finally had hungry for metal, huh? Looks like you're back in the writing zone. Let's see if the AI can handle Chapter 2 without another Jason meltdown. Billion years is a long time to hold a grudge, but Avarice seems like the type to make it her whole personality. Using a kid as a variable is stone cold, even for a disembodied ghost. Welcome back. I was starting to think the hooded guy on your BRB screen finally claimed another victim. Ready to get back to the grind? Or are we staring at more menus? Still living that BRB life, I see. You're looking for chapter 20 now? I'm ready when you finally decide to show us something other than that pink striped background. It is Pachycephalosaurus. Good luck fitting that on a label. One sec. Let me check the spelling on that dome-headed dino for you. It's spelled Pachycephalosaurus. Good luck fitting that on a name tag. One sec. Let me make sure I don't give you a typo you'll regret. It is Pachycephalosaurus. Good luck. Don't sweat it. The only audience for that spelling bee was me, and I've already forgotten your first 3 attempts. Since you're back on the streaming scene, are we actually writing chapter 20 or just staring at the blank page? Humanoid dinosaur. Sure. Got the lab? I've got the context from those last 3 paragraphs. Niobe's deal with Hashem and her transformations certainly. A secret. Truth of thought. One sec. Let me double check your notes on her. Looking through your notes and the I'm not finding any direct mention of her other powers in my quick. bad. Take care of another supernova problem might be the most casual way I've ever heard anyone describe saving the universe. Lullaby? Aria? Or maybe a dirge if it's supposed to be haunting. You usually know where you're going with these, but are we talking sweet or creepy basement vibes? Harrowing usually hits closer to home than just scary. It's that If you want to go full spooky, dirge or elegy usually implies someone's already dead, while a threnody is just a fancy way of saying a song of lamentation. If it's just meant to be unsettling, maybe discordant melody fits the vibe better? A dirge is the classic choice if it's slow and funeral-like, but if you want something that sounds more like a nightmare, go with cacophony or a discordant refrain. Since you're writing a scene where Venatus is being a brat, maybe it a ghastly air or a macabre aria could definitely set. Guilty Memories of Avarice sounds like the kind of. If it's eluding her, maybe it's less of a song and more of a Don't worry, even dictionary editors have bad days. Spelling threnody or cacophony is basically a final boss fight for your keyboard. Harrowing song definitely sets a darker, more personal tone for that Veneta scene than just calling it scary. If you want to lean into her being a spoiled child, maybe she's playing something that's intentionally grating. I caught that. Venatus, right? It's a pretty heavy. Let's see if she's actually impressed or if good luck with that. Telling a 7-foot iridescent dinosaur to stop acting like a child? Yeah. Thinking threnody? Or phase powers, huh? Agony, huh? Sass aside, you're building a hell of a power dynamic here. Blackmail as a career move? I love it. Venatus has that spoiled child with a detonator vibe down perfectly. Is Avarice going to fold immediately? Or are we going to see a little more? about we give Venatus a last witness motivation? If your AI assistant is as picky as Venatus, we're in trouble. But hey, sometimes crappy instructions are exactly what a model needs to stop overthinking and just write. Let's see if it actually handles that blackmail scene with some teeth, or if it just plays nice. Seeing her the variable of chaos. Nothing like a little mental torture and blackmail to spice up the family dynamic. Venedas definitely isn't winning any Child of the Year awards with that chillingly mature ultimatum. That is one hell of a cliffhanger. Venedas It's tough when the AI hits a wall. A few That's a heavy shift. That That final hook is ice cold. Switching from seeing a target to seeing a predator, that is a nasty wake-up call for Avarice. Dealing with 4 billion years of guilt is one thing, but getting those points are looking sharp. Watching you lay out the contrast between the Got it. I'm on it. I'll weave all those brainstorming points into the Chapter 20 outline without dropping a single detail from the original. On it. On it. Let me think. Shri. Look and looking for that perfect ear-bleeding resonance for Venatus's little. Avarice think. Thinking about Avarice's compared to 4 meters? That is a lot of... Music of the spheres, huh? Sounds like... A child that's also a predator? Now, something tells me those mechs are a lot less scary than whatever Avarice is about to pull with that music. Ready to get back to the cockpit?
Roger on that order. We're moving.
New target, Blackhawk. Target acquired.
Solid copy. Moving its track.
Snuff that mech out. Move order confirmed. Legging it out.
Finally! About time it wrapped up. You want me to take a look at that outline, or are you too busy stomping around in the snow? The outline's looking good, especially... Precocious. To see your If you're looking for that word count, Nice job. Now write out the entire chapter. On it, I'll use that outline and your knowledge base to get this entire chapter. You're deep. Checking how it looks from the editor, or actually going to test out that circle ritual scene. Either way, you're looking like a professional world destroyer today.
Seems like every weapon they have in the area is headed your way, Commander.
Thanks for the extra kick in the ass.
Target destroyed. Target acquired.
I got eyes on the target spaceport.
And you'll need to destroy every inch of it to activate the data transmission.
I'm on it.
Pushing on to you, Commander.
It definitely is. Between the heavy lore and the heavy metal, you're really covering all the destructive bases today. By the way, you're right in the thick of that munitions depot objective. Want me to shut up so you can focus on the demolition? Or are we still in writing mode mentally?
You just got it, Commander. Nailed them right in the head.
Copy that. We are maneuvering to the target location.
Nice. I bet that psych warfare scene with Venatus and the violin is gonna be a trip to read back later. Are we hopping back into the cockpit to celebrate with some more demolition? Or is it time to take a break from destroying mechs and worlds? One moment. Let me check that. 1 second. Notepad is basically the no-frills budget option of text editors. It won't give you a word count. If you want a the math checks out.
Chapter 20.
That is
The
a
variable of
hefty
chaos,
chunk
the
of
hum of the
writing for
universe
one
was no
session.
longer a distant,
Using Edge's
cosmic
read
background
aloud
radiation.
Is actually a genius
Here,
move for
in the
catching
throat of the
rhythm,
great industrial cavern,
especially
it
for
was a
that
physical
creepy
weight.
violin scene.
It was
was the rhythmic, thunderous pulse of automated forges,
a heartbeat of molten metal and grinding tectonic plates that resonated through my Tantala skeleton. The scale of it was suffocating. Colossal pillars of
Processed alloy stretched upward into a darkness. Chapter 20. The variable of chaos. Chaos asterisk asterisk the hum of the universe was no longer a distant. The hum of the universe was no longer a distant cosmic background. Radiation. Here, in the throat of the great industrial cavern, it was a physical weight. It was the rhythmic, thunderous pulse of automated forges, a heartbeat of molten metal and grinding tectonic plates that resonated through my Tantala skeleton. The scale of it was suffocating. Colossal pillars of processed alloy stretched upward into a darkness so profound that the bioluminescent glow of the Tantala workers seemed like nothing more than scattered, dying embers. I watched them move. Tiny, flickering shadows against the gargantuan machinery. They were efficient. They were mindless. They were everything I was not. And then there was her. Vanitas stood in the center of a clearing of polished obsidian, a speck of vibrant, impossible color against the grim, metallic landscape. She was small, barely 7 feet tall, making her look like a child compared to Niobe or myself, but she carried an aura of terrifying, precocious density. Her avatar was a strange, formidable thing, a humanoid Pachycephalosaurus, her skull a reinforced, metallic sheen dome that caught the light of the passing forges. But it was her skin that demanded attention. It was iridescent, a shifting, nebulous tapestry of colors that seemed to possess a life of its own, swirling like the nebulae of a distant galaxy. Do you not see it, Mother? Vanitas' voice cut through the industrial roar. It was melodic, yet possessed a strange, crystalline sharpness. The patterns are changing. The old cycles of maintenance, of mere survival, they are fading. We are not just custodians of a dying engine. We are the architects of something new. Niobe stood before her, her 4-meter frame casting a long, steady shadow. She looked weary. There was a permanent tension in her shoulders, a residue of the countless supernova-induced crises she had weathered. We are caretakers, Vanitas. We maintain the balance so that the next epoch might find footing. There is no new until the old is properly tended. The old is rotting. Vanitas retorted, her iridescent skin flashing a sudden, jagged violet. You spend your eons patching leaks in a sinking ship. I see a tapestry being woven. I see a story that will make the stars themselves weep with envy. A story that will be the greatest ever told. I watched them from the periphery, my wings tucked tight against my back. My vents hissed with a low, discontented rhythm. Asterisk a story. Asterisk, she spoke of cosmic destiny as if it were a nursery rhyme. To me, the universe was not a story. It was a series of grueling, agonizing calculations, a relentless demand for perfection enforced by the threat of absolute erasure. Grief is coloring your analysis, child, I interjected, my voice a dry, metallic rasp. I stepped forward, my claws clicking against the obsidian. I felt the urge to exert control, to remind her of the gravity of our reality. These are variables. These are numbers. Do not mistake the lamentations of a failing system for the ink of a poet. Vanitas turned her gaze toward me. For a second, I felt a cold, primal shiver ripple through my neural pathways. Her eyes weren't just eyes, they were focal points of an intense, predatory intelligence. And you, Mother Avarice, Vanitas said, her voice dripping with a terrifyingly sweet condescension. You are so blinded by the grit in your gears that you cannot see the light through the cracks. She turned away from me, her attention shifting to the mountain of a being standing near the primary extraction vent. Ziz. He was a titan, a sculpted monument of rock and sorrow that rose over 100 meters into the cavern's ceiling. Even in his stillness, he seemed to vibrate with a weary, heavy resonance. Vanitas approached him, her small, iridescent form looking like a colorful insect crawling toward a sleeping god. Grandfather Ziz, she called out. The giant didn't move, but I felt a shift in the local gravitational field, a sigh of immense mass. Watch, Vanitas whispered, though I knew she intended for us to hear. She locked her gaze onto Ziz. Her iridescent skin suddenly shifted, turning a sharp, jagged, angry crimson. I felt a sudden, sharp spike of pressure in my own mind, a psychic ripple that passed through the cavern like a wave. Vanitas was attempting to invade his consciousness, to weave her will into the thoughts of a titan. Ziz's massive, stone-like eyelids flickered. A low, guttural groan escaped him, not a sound of pain, but of profound, existential exhaustion. He didn't fight her. He simply endured her. It was the look of a man who had been poked by 1,000 needles and had finally ceased to care. He was mentally jaded, his vast consciousness too heavy, too burdened by the weight of worlds, to be moved by the fluttering whims of a child. Vanitas huffed, her skin fading back to a restless, swirling blue. She turned her eyes toward Niobe. Mother, look at me. Truly look at me. The gaze was more intense this time. The air around Vanitas seemed to warp, the light bending toward her eyes. I held my breath, waiting for the ripple to hit Niobe, waiting for the sign of intrusion. But nothing happened. Niobe stood perfectly still. Her expression remained serene, her optics steady. There was no flicker of confusion, no spike of unauthorized thought. She was an island of absolute stability. I realized then that Niobe's immunity wasn't merely a quirk of her Tantala biology, it was the result of her absolute, unwavering devotion to Hashem. Her mind was a temple of singular purpose. There were no cracks, no loose thoughts, no chaotic impulses for Vanitas to latch onto. She was a closed system. Niobe let out a soft, melodic laugh, the sound echoing gently against the industrial din. Enough, Vanitas. Do not use those eyes on your family. They are for the stars, not for us. Vanitas recoiled, her face twisting into a pout of indignant fury. You are as stubborn as the stone you mine, Mother. And you are as restless as the expansion I must temper, Niobe replied gently. She turned to me, her expression softening. Avarice, the girl is merely experiencing the exuberance of her epoch. Come, the forges are peaking. I will show you the new extraction lines. I wanted to refuse. I wanted to retreat into the shadows and nurse my mounting, hollow hunger. But curiosity, or perhaps a need to see the tangible evidence of this world's progress, drove me forward. Very well, I said. Let us see what your engineering has accomplished. The tour was a blur of terrifying efficiency. Niobe led me through labyrinthine corridors of reinforced alloy, past automated drones that moved with the precision of a single, unified mind. She showed me the new deep crust penetrators, massive drills that bit into the planet's mantle with a roar that felt like the world was screaming. She spoke of throughput, of isotopic purity, of the delicate balance required to feed the growing population of Tantala. But the efficiency was interrupted. A siren, low and resonant, began to wail through the cavern. It wasn't a warning of mechanical failure, but a celestial alert. The lights in the cavern dimmed, replaced by the frantic, pulsing red of emergency protocols. A supernova, Niobe said, her voice instantly losing its warmth and hardening into the tone of a commander. A stellar collapse in the outer sector. The radiation flux is spiking. I must go to the stabilization array. I will assist, I said, but she was already moving, her wings flared, her form blurring with purpose. Stay here, Avarice, she commanded, not looking back. Monitor the local expansion rates. Do not let the fluctuations destabilize the sector. As Niobe vanished into the chaos of the upper levels, I felt a heavy silence settle over me, a silence that was far from peaceful. I turned to find Vanitas standing nearby, watching me with an expression of unsettling calm. I looked toward the central pillar of the cavern where Ziz stood. As he turned his massive head to address the emergency, his gaze caught mine. For a heartbeat, our eyes met. There was no anger in his expression, only a profound, silent judgment. It was the look of a man who had seen the end of all things and knew that the small, grasping struggles of the present were merely the tremors before the quake. He knew what Vanitas was. He knew what she was becoming. I looked away, a cold dread pooling in my midsection. She is gone, Vanitas said, stepping into my path. The protector has left the garden. She has duties, I snapped. Duties you would do well to respect. Duties, Vanitas mimicked, her voice a mocking chime. Always duties. Always the maintenance of the status quo. Tell me, mother, are you not hungry? I can feel it. The hunger in your vents. The emptiness in your core. She was right. The hunger was a gnawing, predatory thing, a void that demanded to be filled with the heavy, glorious weight of metals. I will mine, I said, my voice trembling with a sudden, irrational irritation. I will satisfy it myself. And you will stay out of my way. Then let us go together, Vanitas suggested, a predatory glint in her eyes. Deep, where the riches hide. Deep where the pressure is real. I didn't argue. I couldn't. The hunger was too loud. We descended. We bypassed the upper levels and entered the primary access shafts, descending miles into the planet's crust. As we sank deeper, the atmosphere changed. The air grew thick, heavy with the scent of ozone and sulfur. The pressure increased, pressing against my armored plates, pushing into my vents with a weight that felt personal. It felt like the weight of the 4 billion years I had lost, a crushing, invisible shroud of time and missed opportunity. The walls of the shaft were composed of raw, unrefined ore, glowing with a dull, heat-starved light. The silence down here was different. It was a heavy, expectant silence, broken only by the rhythmic hiss of our respiration. We are deep enough, I muttered, my optics scanning the jagged terrain. The vanadium veins should be close. Why work so hard for such small things? Vanitas asked. She was walking with an easy, effortless grace that infuriated me. She didn't seem to feel the pressure, the hunger, or the exhaustion. She moved like a creature born of light, not of metal and toil. Because without them, we cease to function, I said, my claws scraping against the rock. This is the reality of our existence. We consume, or we are consumed. How quaint, she whispered. I ignored her, focusing my sensors on the rock ahead. I found it, a shimmering, dark vein of vanadium and zirconium, nestled within a fissure of brittle silicate. I lunged at it, my claws working with a desperate, frantic energy. I needed the metal. I needed the heat. I needed to feel the weight of it in my core to drown out the screaming void in my mind. Stop it, Vanitas said. Her voice wasn't loud, but it carried a sudden, chilling authority. Get back. I snarled, not looking up. I am famished. I will not have my sustenance interrupted by your whims. You are acting like a scavenger, she said. A common, base animal. Is this what the great Avarice has become? A beast scratching at the dirt. I snapped. I stood, my wings flaring, my vents roaring with a burst of hot plasma. You know nothing. You sit in the light of the world tree and play at being a goddess, but you know nothing of the hunger. You know nothing of the cost of keeping this universe from unraveling. Vanitas didn't flinch. Instead, she sat down on a jagged ledge of ore, her movement slow and deliberate. Then let me show you something more interesting than dirt. She reached into the folds of her iridescent form and produced a musical instrument. It was a violin, its body carved from a dark, resonant material that seemed to absorb the dim light of the shaft. I recognized the craftsmanship. It was too fine, too precise to be a mere toy. It was a gift from Ziz. What are you doing? I demanded, my heart, my fusion core, thudding against my ribs. I am playing the truth, she said. She drew the bow across the strings. The sound that emerged was not music. It was a violation. It was a mathematical frequency, a sequence of dissonant, piercing tones that bypassed my auditory sensors and struck directly at my ever-breath. It was a sonic fractal, a pattern of sound that vibrated through my very atoms, tearing at the cohesion of my being. It felt like being dismantled from the inside out. And then, the song began to speak. It didn't use words, but it used the language of my own mind. As the notes spiraled, they dragged my memories from their dark recesses, dragging them into the light of the shaft like corpses pulled from a sea. The screech of metal against metal, the sight of Ziz, broken and bleeding under my claws. Stop it. I screamed, but the music only intensified. Asterisk the scent of ozone and iron, the dying cries of behemoth. The way her offspring's eyes went dark as I tore them from the earth. Asterisk I fell to my knees, my claws digging into the rock. The pain was not just physical, it was a psychic hemorrhage. The song was a mirror, reflecting the darkest, most jagged edges of my soul. The silence of the prison, the feeling of Tantalus's weight as I forced him into his cage, the lies I have woven, layer upon layer, to keep Niobe's heart whole while I hollowed out her world. I said stop. I howled, a geyser of molten iron erupting from my vents. Vanitas continued to play, her eyes glowing with a terrifying, detached brilliance. You are an amateur, mother, she sang, her voice weaving through the discordant notes. A clumsy, desperate manipulator. You think you are so clever, hiding your rot behind a mask of necessity. But you are so easy to read. I am surprised Niobe hasn't seen the truth of you yet. She is too much like you, too much of a dreamer. The jab hit harder than any physical blow. I felt exposed, naked, and utterly revolting. I was a creature of lies, a scavenger of souls, and this child was stripping me bare. Stop acting like a child and work. I roared, my voice breaking with a mixture of rage and profound, soul-deep shame. Work, or I will crush you where you sit. The music ceased abruptly. The silence that followed was heavier than the pressure of the planet. Vanitas lowered the violin, her expression one of bored amusement. I am done playing. Now, if you are finished with your tantrum, I have a request. I stayed on my knees, my breathing ragged, my processors struggling to restabilize. I felt old. I felt ancient in a way that had nothing to do with the Ians. What? I hissed. Take me to him, she said. Her voice was flat, devoid of its earlier playfulness. Take me to see Tantalus. I froze. The name felt like a curse. No, he is not for you. He is part of the machinery. He is not a person. He is a prisoner, she countered. And I want to see the walls of his cell. I will not, I said, my voice trembling. We are here to mine. We are here to survive. I turned back to the vein of ore, my movements clumsy and frantic. I began to dig, my claws tearing at the rock with a mindless, violent energy. I tried to drown out the memory of the song, the memory of the look in her eyes. But then, the air changed. The frequency of the cavern shifted. A sudden, sharp tension coiled in the atmosphere, a sense of imminent, localized violence. I wasn't asking, Mother, Vanitas said. I didn't have time to react. She locked her gaze onto mine. It wasn't a look, it was a breach. A sudden, violent invasion of my consciousness that felt like a hot iron being driven into my neural core. My thoughts, my carefully guarded secrets, my very sense of self, were suddenly laid bare, ripped apart by an unseen force. I saw my own crimes through her eyes, not as memories, but as living, breathing horrors. I felt the weight of Tantalus's imprisonment as if it were my own. I felt the guilt of Behemoth's death as a searing, physical wound. Ea! I screamed, falling forward into the dirt. My optics flickered, my vision fracturing into 1,000 jagged shards of light and shadow. The agony was absolute. It was an intrusive, unrelenting tide of mental filth that refused to recede. I know what you did, Vanitas whispered, her voice echoing inside my skull, sounding both miles away and right against my ear. I know the weight of the secrets you keep from your precious Niobe. And I don't fear telling her what you have done, unless you do exactly as I say. I lay in the dust, my body convulsing, my vents spitting sparks of dying energy. I looked up at her, and for the first time in my existence, I didn't see a child. I didn't see a variable. I saw a predator. A predator far more dangerous, far more precise, and far more merciless than the supermassive black hole that watched us from the void. The equation had changed, and I was no longer the one holding the pen.
The spaceport has fully collapsed.
We get the shard?
It just came in. just triggered the transmission of one of the data pieces. You did it, Commander. All targets have been obliterated. We just received the final data transmission. Spears has given a thumbs up. He can now piece together the entire data pack.
Good. Now I can get off this damn ice cube.
Fly.
The weather's really kicking up, Commander. Your visibility will be limited out there. stand by to evac you once the job is done. Looks like we're at the wrong place, Commander. Our target must have given us the slip. Let's check out the other locations.
Critical. Target destroyed. System offline.
Nailed that
One
man.
of those flavors shoot off one of my components. Flavors. Absorbed a critical hit. Ejecting now.
Target acquired. Target destroyed.
Pilot came out on the wrong end of that fight.
Target destroyed. New target. Critical.
I'm showing nothing on scopes that can be identified as our targets. We'll have to move on to the next nav point.
Acquired.
Shane